Hello again and welcome back to London. Do you feel slightly cheated? We were told Monday was going to be the meeting of all meetings to decide the fate of Greece, but guess what? It wasn't. I've been speaking to Alistair Cotton from Currencies Direct. Alistair, there is a certain amount of depressing deja vu with this Greece story. What's your take on where we stand at the moment?
It's difficult to ascertain exactly where we are. I think the market is telling us that it's fairly positive. However, there's so many hurdles that we've got to get over to get to a deal. It's really hard. I know, as you said, deja vu. I think that's exactly the right word. We could be 2 days away from a deal potentially, but it's got to go through ratification by the Greeks especially, and that's a huge hurdle. And then we've got to come back to the Germans, and the Germans have not said anything really that positive about this this submission by the Greek government so far. So I just don't think we can tell at this stage, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, how do you expect a deal to look? Do you think it's just going to be that 7.5 billion? Because if it's just that 7.5 billion, say just because their debts are huge,
yeah.
Do you think it's going to be any wider than that one amount?
Not at this stage, but I totally agree with you. Longer term, if we get this deal, all that it's doing is extending the time period till we have to do something about the debt. The debt is totally completely unsustainable in the long term. The whether it comes down to the ECB doing something like swapping the debt with something lower interest bearing, I don't know what the final solution will be, but it's only to keep the current debt will be to keep liquidity for the next 3, 4, 5 months or whatever, and then we'll be in exactly the same position again. Longer term, nothing's being resolved.
Do you think there's a loss of political will? Because when you take into consideration that any sort of haircut or anything like that is going to have to go through various European parliaments, Germany for example, yeah, how's Angela Merkel going to sell that to the Greek people when you've had Alexis Tsipras raising the spectre of World War II? Well,
I think that's a very good point. What usually happens in this situation, in my view, is that when the politicians are not doing their jobs properly, or they don't have the political capital to get something like a write down through their own parliaments, it's the central bank that has to act, and it will be the ECB, which is politically motivated, I know, but it has that distance from all the regional parliaments to actually do something unilaterally almost. Like a write-down, and by write-down I mean it could be an extension of the terms or a reduction in the interest rate. I think that's exactly the same thing, but just slightly different. That'll be where the decisive action is taking place at the central bank level, because I don't think the politicians will be able to achieve it.
Yeah, it's interesting, away from the politics, the economic situation in the whole Eurozone, leaving Greece aside, it's actually been steadily improving. What do you make of this latest PMI numbers? Because they're actually quite positive.
They are, and there is a significant improvement, as we were just saying. The really important thing is that net lending to businesses and consumers across the Eurozone is improving after sort of declining for the last 2 years. It's starting to turn positive again, and that's driving, banks are getting credit back to businesses and consumers, and that's what's driving these PMIs, in my opinion. That trend is going to continue. It's going to be masking what's going on slightly, and that is a real worry, that the ECB and the politicians think, oh well, actually the Eurozone is doing okay, so this is not a serious problem. We can kick the can as long as things are improving generally. We don't have to come to some sort of resolution. I think that's a mistake. They need to get something in place longer term in terms of a write down. I guess that the improving situation helps the fact that it's more palatable for German governments and French governments to write down Greek debt if the economic situation is improving slightly. However, I think it could cause some complacency.
Yeah, just to finish off with the euro as a currency. I was speaking to someone yesterday, and they were saying that they don't expect a positive Greek outcome to be particularly great for the euro, because there's so many other factors that are weighing on the currency at the moment. If we do see some sort of deal in the next few days, do you expect the euro to shoot up or not?
Well, I think I'm sure it's been reported, and you've said before, we've been really complacent across the markets about if Greece pulls out. It's been eerily calm. I think we'll see a little bit of reaction if we get a deal, but nothing spectacular. I think the general feeling is that Greece is a small, manageable problem, even though it probably isn't. I think that's the generalised feeling across the market. So, yes, some movement, but not great.
Well, I guess we'll have no choice but to continue to follow the Greek situation. Stay tuned for more interviews and analysis, but from London, goodbye for now.